Sheriff, can you clarify for the committee members and Americans that are observing this hearing regarding detainers? That can be confusing to Americans that don't know how it works. So you just lay it out. You have local, state, and federal law enforcement operating across the country. And when you have someone incarcerated in your jail, in your county jail, if there's a local jurisdictional authority, say the county over, has a warrant for an arrest on an inmate in your jail, what happens when that inmate is finished with his time, it's time to be released from your jail? If that county next to you has contacted your jail and say, hey, we have a warrant, let us know when you're ready to let this guy go. That's called a detainer. What happens when a local law enforcement contacts you about that?
We turn them over to him.
At what point? In the parking lot an hour after you released them, or in the jail?
No, in the jail.
Thank you. So that's a detainer, America. This is the way it works. What about your state police in Florida? State police have a detainer, a warrant on an inmate? Do they come and pick them up from in the jail?
Well, no, because the state police don't operate jails, so the detainers would only be generally.
Be a detective's hold.
Sure.
But state police, if they want that inmate before he's released to the parking lot, they come to the jail. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So federal law enforcement works the same way. If the FBI has a detainer on someone, do you hold them in your jail, turn them over directly to the FBI, not to the parking lot?
All the time.
Thank you. If ICE does that now in Florida, if ICE has a detainer, what happens to that inmate?
We're turning them over to ICE.
Directly to ICE. In the jail, America. Not after they've been released to the parking lot, good lady, which was happening in sanctuary cities. So the sanctuary city mayors will say, yeah, we're turning them over. We're releasing them to ICE. We're quote-unquote following the law. But listen to what they're saying, America. They're releasing these guys into the parking lot, and when ICE contacts them, they say, yeah, we let him go 2 hours ago. He was last seen wearing this, walking in that direction. That's not the way detainers have worked historically across the country. So that ties in, Mr. Humar, to what you brought up regarding weaponized migration. It occurs to me, I'd like you to address this. We have millions of illegals coming into our country, came into our country over the last 4 years, and wave after wave. Policy was always known amongst law enforcement that policy caused that and policy could quickly fix it. We've proven that that's true since January the 20th. But these guys are already here. What have they done to plug into the criminal networks and the cartel networks across the country that our sovereign states and our communities across the country are now having to deal with? Please go into that.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, there's a concept that was used in the executive order that President Trump signed designating cartels as terrorist organizations. It's a concept called convergence. And what convergence is when you get terrorist organizations, criminal organizations, an array of illicit actors converging together under logistics. What we're seeing today is logistical networks be erected all throughout the United States as service providers. I'll give you an example. If you're an accountant for a major Mexican cartel, you're a good candidate to be an accountant for ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hezbollah, that's also operating inside the United States. What this does is it empowers illicit economies and allows those illicit economies to grow and overtake counties, overtake states, and eventually overtake the country. So we're seeing a convergence of criminals, terrorists, and all kinds of illicit actors coming together who may not agree, who may fight on turf battles, but fundamentally want the country to become illicit. And
so the criminal networks that had already existed in our cities and our sovereign states across the country, how are they battling for their territory? Are we seeing an expansion of violent crimes and serious property crimes pushed into parts of our communities that had not historically seen that crime because of the expansion of turf, just the numbers of criminal operators battling for turf? How is that happening across country.
No, that's absolutely the case. I think you're seeing territorial control and territorial capture. That's fundamental to transnational organized crime. Territory is what they're going after. They want to capture territory, take it away from the state, and impose their own kind of criminal governance. But what we're seeing is that put on steroids, because when you add the state element, nation states now using these transnational criminal organizations, you're seeing an element of ability to put these criminal organizations into overdrive. I'll give you one example, Venezuela's Tren de Aragua. Just in the last year, we've seen it expand from 4 states to over 23 states inside the United States. That doesn't happen on its own. That happens because there's a government back in Venezuela that's providing guidance, direction, and resources to be able to expand throughout the country. And that Tren de Aragua is doing exactly what you're saying, Mr. Chairman, taking over a place that never saw this kind of violent crime before.
So thank you for that clarification. My time has expired.